Comments about practice from yesterday and today, and then we'll take the questions, and a reminder, no live streaming.
It was good to get back out there yesterday and get some guys back. Some guys were able to practice and pushed and did a good job. And then we had a light practice yesterday and then got after it pretty good today. Got a little bit of weather, so we were able to practice in the rain for a while, which was good. And it was not a heavy downpour. It was more of a light deal. And got to do some good on good, get to work on some third down, some red area stuff, and got some guys back. So that was helpful. And I thought the guys had really good energy, which you would expect this week. So there were some good competitive periods out there. We're a little ahead of schedule of a normal week, which helps us get more time to correct some things, fix some things. That'll open it up.
Just on who you got back, Lawrence Cager?
Yeah, Cager's been out there practicing. Tyson's been out there practicing. Trevon's been out there practicing. I don't know. You have to ask me specifically because I don't ever know who y'all are thinking about.
I wanted to ask you about D-Rob. He kind of pushed through that hamstring thing and even looked a little bit uncomfortable right away. But is he back to 100%? Is he kind of, numbers and everything that y'all look at?
He's been fine. He had the hamstring. I forget what game that was. Seems like an eternity to go now. But the games he's been back, he's been fine. We monitor his yardages and make sure he hits certain numbers and get him real loose before he starts, but he hasn't had any other problems.
I don't know what exactly the SEC East implications were like for Georgia Florida when you played. Kind of what does it add to a rivalry game like this when it's also got everything with the SEC East kind of layered on top of it?
That's what makes it a rivalry. You got so much at stake. So I really don't think that it would matter if it was about the SEC East or not. It's Georgia, Florida. So that in itself carries a lot of weight. The game, the history, the tradition, the fact you have a Hall of Fame for the game alone, and players can be remembered for their performances in that game alone is pretty big. But the SEC East is always, it weighs heavily into this game. I wouldn't say it determines it all the time.
Is there anything about this game, whether it's the drive-in, the split stadium, whatever, that kind of stands out to you as something, as a player and as a coach, that makes it unique and makes it fun?
Yeah, that's probably the most unique thing is the split 50-50 because it's weird. You have a weird feeling in there sometimes. It's so different than I call it a pro mentality because there's no student section. They're chanting for you or against you when you come out to warm up. It's not like that. The atmosphere in pregame is very different. It's a different feel because when you go out pregame at a road game, it's like I'm in enemy territory. When you go out in your place, you're in friendly confines, but there's a lot more energy and buzz. And it seems like at this game, the times I've played in it and coached in it, it's more flat in warm-ups, and then all of a sudden, boom, you come out for the game and everybody's in their seat. They come in at the same time as opposed to being in there early.
The fact that Coach Warren was on Florida staff last year, anything at all, is that something that's kind of overstated in a game like this?
I think it means a lot. I think the history that our staff has from the years on the West going against Dan, he probably watches countless films of the times we've gone against each other, and we do the same as far as schemes and things like that. Now, personnel, I think obviously there's personnel there that he knows or he's gone against, and sometimes that can be beneficial, sometimes it's not because you don't know how matchups are going to work. How's the left guard, right guard, center, left receiver, right receiver, tight end going to match up on certain guys. He's seen more of them because he sees them every day in practice. But it's very similar to Chaney. I don't know how much that helps or hurts.
Do you worry about the same thing with Brenton Cox and sort of a reverse, especially since he was with the team in the spring and first parts of fall practice?
Not really. You don't concern yourself with things you can't control. And, they got film, so they can watch and see what we do. You know what I mean? So it's not like there's secrets out there when it's on tape.
Coach, sorry to bring you a little bit off topic, but the NCAA just announced that they're willing to let college athletes be paid. How do you think that's going to affect college football?
Be honest with you, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know and understand exactly how it's going to affect the future. I do trust the hands that it's in and the committee that's been formed to look into it, and I think they'll do a tremendous job. It looks like to me that they would come up with a proposal somewhere around January 2021 maybe, and that still seems like a long way off in my mind. But we'll have to prepare, and whatever they decide to go with, we'll deal with it. But I don't have enough information to form a complete opinion on it to understand it completely. Our biggest concern as coaches across the country are, is it going to be an even playing field? You know, the biggest concern was state to state, it not being balanced. And if it comes out balanced state to state, then we're all playing on the same playing field.
So in terms of rivalry, from more of a recruiting standpoint, what does it say about the matchup of these two teams when there are a lot of guys in this roster who are heavily considering Florida and heavily considering Georgia and where they have West? Just what does that say about the makeup of these rosters?
It says we recruit against them a lot. I mean, you know, it seems like there's every player that's on their roster we were at least in contact with, or maybe, you know, they still got guys playing that were recruited under the other staff, where most of ours are under ours. But I think both places recruited, I mean, probably 80% of these kids overlapped. And they were probably in the final, you know, 4 teams. So it makes, it makes you probably, as a player, want to win more if you almost went there. And there's also the overlap of they recruit our state and we recruit their state. They've got quite a few Georgia kids. We've got quite a few Florida kids. And those kids want to win, obviously, because they got to go home and live and see in their communities. So it makes it, I think anytime you're border rivalry, it's that much more. We just have a lot of those.
With Campbell and Cager practicing, does that mean is that the green light that they're cleared to play in the game?
Well, they're cleared to play, but we got to find out if they're ready to play. Just because they practiced, if they're practicing, they're cleared. But cleared doesn't say that guy's ready to play, and that'll be determined by how they practice and what they're able to do and not do, and how shaped they are, how much they can sustain, and those are all important factors that we have to factor into how much they play and if they're able to play.
What's been your relationship with Dan been since you got to Florida? He's kind of said his things. I know you guys were close. House was close on Lake Oconee when he was at Mississippi State.
Yeah, I mean, I sit by him in every SEC meeting because F, G, they alphabetize. So it's side by side. So we get to sit and talk about things. When the topic comes up about, whatever the conversation is, whether it's some rule thing, some recruiting thing, we're always sharing ideas of how everybody looks at it. How does it affect you? How does it affect me? How does it affect him? We're both the only SEC schools in our state, so sometimes we agree on certain things and things like that. But I don't get to see Dan a whole lot, even when he's at the lake and I'm there. We're both spending time with our families.
Kirby, what's your lasting memory of the 1997 win over Florida?
To be honest with you, it's we didn't win a lot of good games, so it was like that was the highlight of our tenure time here, because we didn't win a lot of big games. But that was a big game. It was a big upset. Probably the highlight for me, or the biggest memory, is walking out after the game, showered, cleaned up, and my mom was there. And she's born and raised in Florida. Almost went to University of Florida. She's from Plant City, so it meant a lot to her. And getting to see her, that was probably the best part of it.
As Eric Stokes, he hasn't allowed a touchdown, much like DeAndre did. And how, not to make the comparison because I know they're two different kinds of players, but how good do you think he's done? Where's his ceiling?
It's a hard question to answer. Eric works as hard as anybody on our team. He's very intelligent. He takes notes in the meeting. He understands things. He has made himself into a good player. When I say that, it wasn't natural for him. He didn't grow up playing corner. He was a talented athlete. He was fast. He was a running back. He was a raw guy that has developed and gotten better through hard work and habits. With his length and his speed, the sky's the limit for him. But at the same time, you have to understand is our guys haven't had a chance to play a lot of guys. You think about it, the rain, a young quarterback, whatever the reasons, we haven't had a lot of opportunities. We're going to get them in this game because they got good wideouts, good quarterback, good scheme. So there's going to be opportunities. When you click on that tape from the LSU and the Auburn game, there are NFL matchups all over the field. This corner against this wideout. This corner against this wideout. Well, the games in the SEC, they're not going to change week to week. They're going to boil down to who can win in some one-on-one matchup, and he'll get his opportunities.
When we talk to Eric, it's pretty clear he's just kind of a different guy.
Yeah.
The genuine, the way he talks about his teammates. every teammate's the once in a lifetime player. He's really complimentary of those guys. Does he come across that way to you guys? I mean, is he a unique personality on this football team, just like he is whenever he talks to us?
He's very charismatic. I mean, he cares about his family. He's got a great family. He's a great person. I mean, he's a joy to be around. And like I said, Coach Tucker did a tremendous job with him, developing him from a young age, because the guy was raw, and he has built himself through hard work and habits, and he still has room to improve. He'd be the first to tell you that, but I'm proud of how he works every day. He gives you everything he's got, and he's a great asset to our program off the field.
Could you compare Kyle Pitts to anyone you've seen, and how many different ways can a defense defend a tight end? They seem to be such a tweener position. You've seen defended so many different ways.
Yeah, he's as talented as I've seen. I mean, we knew that coming out of high school. We recruited him heavily and couldn't get him. He went there with the other staff, and he's a tremendous athlete. He's a matchup. He's size, speed. He's all the things you want. I don't know that the SEC has maybe seen a tight end. I'm trying to think back over the years, because he's different. I mean, the tight end at Notre Dame is a big old physical guy and a great player. But this guy is, he's 50% wide out, 50% tight end, and he's good at it.
Bama's tight end last year, maybe?
He's a good player. This guy's bigger. I mean, this guy's a good player.
How do you evaluate your return game?
Yeah, we haven't done what we want to do there explosive wise. I think we probably missed some opportunities for some big ones a couple times with Tyler, and then Tyler had good numbers, but we didn't do it consistently, and he's been dinged up. And Dom's given us some good quality work back there, and then we've missed some opportunities in the kickoff return game. We've been scorched because we had 2 times that we got 0-yard gains, and statistically those kill you. Well, we got a situation against Notre Dame. We think we got hands out there, and we want to fair catch it. DeAndre gets a 2-yard return, and then Cooks last week, where the ball was swirling around, they just absolutely murder your statistics. But I'm pleased with our protection, our blocking, our scheme, everything we're doing. We just hadn't had an opportunity, hadn't had a clean shot where we pop one yet. Had a couple penalties on punt return that have hurt us.
Coach, we talked to Jake Fromm about his grandma cooks the lineman cookies or something like that, and then the Swift said he takes them out for maybe wings on Thursday night. How common is that for people to reward their linemen, and does it happen between other groups of units?
I don't know. I think some of our defensive players, the wives of the coaches might bring them, treat of that week or something. But I see brownies and stuff like that sitting around, so I'm always grabbing in that. But I don't ever know who made them. So if you haven't noticed, I don't miss brownies. But there's you don't always know who made them. It's just they break them for the players with the coaches' wives, and that's pretty. It's a throwback thing that a lot of high schools do too.
2 more questions?
When you have Florida, I don't know if they're 1 to 6 wideouts, or there's not much separation from the quality of them. What does that do when you try to match up with your best players with theirs? I don't know how often you try to do that, or what your scheme is for that, but does it create difficulties?
Yeah, they got some good matchups. They got ability to put, they got good players on this. Their skill guys are really talented, and it's probably past 6 because 1 to 6, there's not a whole lot of difference, but they got 7 or 8, especially with getting Tony back. It gives them an added dimension there, and fortunate for us, they can't have but 3 or 4 of them on the field. But they put them in locations, they move them around. He does a good job creating matchup issues across the field. And at the end of the day, you have to be able to cover people and play them. You can't trick them. You got to go out there and cover them and play them. And there's every game they've been in, LSU and Auburn, there's been one-on-one matchups all over the board. And you got to win more of those than you lose.
Coach Lunsford down at Georgia Southern said you reached out to him following their play. I mean, why do you feel it's important for you to do that?
Because it's hard, man. Mental health, and my brother works in the profession. It has affected me more in the last 2 years than it has the previous 12, 13 of my coaching career. Like, when I was the first coach, I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what that was. And now it's way more prevalent. We talk about it as SEC meetings. We talk about it all the time. We've hired 2 people in the field. And there's these kids today are dealing with a lot more pressure, anxiety, issues, social media, pressure on themselves to perform, whatever it may be. And I'm not talking about just student athletes. We're talking about students. But, we've had guys that struggle and have had issues. So when he had his situation, I just reached out that, hey, we're all going through it, and we're not professionals. I'm not a professional dealing with that. So we have to reach out and get help on how to manage those kind of situations. Thanks.